Right. Yeah, we should have charged for this hijacking, Mukesh, I'm telling you. All right. Thank you for the kind introduction, Mukesh. And yeah, I am joined here on this call by a few of my colleagues. One of them is Peter Hoffman, who's our co-CTO and the head here in Singapore, and will be graciously helping me in case the questions get very technical. Okay, let me quickly load a amazing presentation. Okay, can you see my screen? Awesome. Oh, no, wrong. That was not the button. It was this button. Okay. Um, Before I begin, like Mukesh already mentioned, our solution, the Data2Evidence platform, is already open source actually. So I realized that I have been very tardy with my LinkedIn update on this. I should do a bit more as the product manager for this. So yeah, I will post something about the fact that we are already open source. Um, so before I begin talking about the platform itself, I just wanted to give a quick introduction to people who don't know us. I know some of you know us, most of you don't. We are from Data for Life, Asia, essentially a not-for-profit, which is funded by the Hasso Plattner Foundation. In case the name seems familiar, he's the guy from SAP. And we are essentially working towards developing solutions for advancing healthcare research. And we do it in collaboration with leading domain experts. So we don't try to build something and then figure it out if the market has a need for it. We prefer to work with experts. So please feel free to reach out to me. If you have any ideas for a collaboration, we are very happy to hear it. And as I already said, our software is open source. So I will drop a link to it and some QR codes like Song did at the end of the presentation so you can try it yourself. All right, so we have essentially 4 solutions as part of the Data for Life. Well, technically it's 3 solutions as part of the Data for Life umbrella. We have the collect part of things, which helps you in collecting data from sensors and wearables. And then we have Data to Evidence, the topic of today's talk, of whom I am the product manager, as I mentioned. So this is made up of 2 parts, integrate and analyze. Essentially integrate doing, again, most of them do what they say on the box. Integrates your data, so it helps you to load your data, sort of harmonize it, and then get some quality assessment and things done. And then analyze helps your researcher side of things, perform some analysis, explore, build cohorts, etc., so that you can go ahead and do your research. And then FAIR is a metadata catalog. So if you're an institution which has like a lot of data sets and is finding it very difficult for people to see where to find them, then FAIR is like a card catalog of things. Okay, so what is Data to Evidence? So the idea that we had was we needed an end-to-end solution for healthcare data management. So we have solutions that sort of come in parts and things like that. So our idea was that you would need sort of like a end-to-end one-stop shop solution, which is for data management and analysis. And essentially the idea is that more and more siloed healthcare data sets can be made open, right? So as I mentioned, we have 2 parts. So integrate is, like you can see, works essentially to integrate all the data sets into a common data model or your Odyssey OMOP CDM model, right? So you have the tooling that can help you to do ETL. And again, I would like to highlight the fact that we are experts in software development. So we develop the tools. We do not claim to do the ETL process ourselves. We are happy to help or to get involved if there is something very interesting, but we believe that we are best off making spades rather than digging ourselves. Yeah. So we make the tooling and you can use it to extract, transform, and load your data. And then of course we have the data storage in an interoperable format. You're very familiar with it. That's why you're here is the Odyssey OMOP format with minor changes and extensions if required. We also have tooling for quality checks. This is, again, something that you already know, the DQD, the data quality dashboard, and Achilles, which is the data characterization. So we have both of those integrated, so you can work with familiar tools already in the platform. In case you have other users who are trying to access the data and you are the data admin, then we have quite a streamlined access request. So somebody can request access and then you can review it and then say, yeah, okay, I grant access, I don't. And the user roles are quite fine grained. So if you want someone to see some things but not see other things, it is possible to do some things but not do other things. So only see data but not allowed to analyze it. Sure, that's possible. Analyze it but not allowed to make any changes. Sure, that's possible. So if you have a role in mind, then it is quite possible to configure such a role. And for that, we also integrate with existing sign-ons. So we don't believe that you should recreate all your groups again with all the permissions and stuff. If you have existing sign-ons, then we can integrate with it. Otherwise, we have our own user identification methodology. Okay, in terms of the other side of things, which is the researcher side, and this is after the data has been converted and stored in the OMOP format, comes the D2E analyze. So here you have a little graphical tool for data exploration. So the users can look through the data and try to understand what is the statistical makeup of the data. And the key thing that I will talk a little bit more about is this interactive no-code cohort building tool. So essentially, we have found from our experience working with a lot of research institutions that there are a lot of clinical researchers who do not have extensive coding experience. So you end up with a clinical researcher who has amazing amounts of ideas, who knows exactly how to create a cohort, but has to wait for somebody who knows SQL to come join the team and then build a cohort for them. So this sort of takes away that problem and helps them to, and I will show you how easy it is to build one, is just drag and drop. And if you know what you're looking for, then you just have to type it, the system searches for it, helps you build everything, and then in the end you end up with a cohort. And you can also look through the cohort and try to understand how it looks, etc. Similarly, the DQD, can be extended for cohort quality checks. So we extend that also in the same platform. We have a implementation of an interactive notebook, very similar to Jupyter Hub, is called Starboard, but it's not meant for like high level in sense of like if you need intensive computing, then that's not what we would suggest. It's more for statistical analysis and sort of like early look into it. But the system does integrate. If you have Azure machine learning or existing high performance computing clusters, then you can integrate with them and then follow the same pipeline that you do when you were researching before, instead of having to change the way you do this. So that's so the overarching idea is that we don't want to come in and change the way anybody does their work. If we cannot make it better, then we integrate it. If we can suggest some way to make it better, then we would like to make it better. And that's the whole idea behind the development. And again, no research is done. No man is an island in research, or no person is an island in a research. So we allow for easy collaboration, analysis, and the data subset. So you can share your notebooks, you can share your cohort filtration ideas and things with your colleagues. And eventually, if you do create a data subset, then you can request for that to be shared specifically with your colleagues also. Right. So this is the whole solution. Data to evidence. So it's made up of the two parts, and this is how they fit all together. One storing, integrating, and storing, and the other one helping you to access and analyze. Right. I would like you to take a few moments so that I can walk you, because I cannot show everything in the demo. So I would like to walk you through a little bit through some features that we think are useful. Let's say if you're a data owner, usually when you start with your data integration process, you start with design of the whole ETL process, then you do the implementation of it, and then you have to do a quality assessment so you understand if you have ingested the data well or the processes have not lost data, kind of thing. So we have a small module that does helps you to do concept mapping. So you can import some vocabularies and things, and then figure out how they map exactly to standard vocabularies from your source data. Then you can use that information to do data mapping. So we have all the OMOP tables or the table structure loaded. So if you can scan your tables and then sort of tell the system, hey, look, this is how each table connects to each other, or each of the columns is connected to each other. So this name here means this, and this, et cetera, right? And then you can then generate the ETL documentation specification, and this you can send to your engineer, who can then quite easily build data transformation pipelines, right? In the interest of time, I won't be showing all of this, but if you're interested, please reach out to me. We can have a separate session and we can talk about it on a call. Yeah. And then, of course, I talked to you about the data quality dashboard and the data characterization, which you already know about from the Odyssey group, right? On top of it, you can also manage schema evaluations, schema evolutions. So essentially, if your schema changes, the data model changes, then you can easily do these changes. And very specifically, if you have like 5-6 data sets and you only want to update one instead of not touching all the others, that's also possible. So it's not like if you do it for everything or nothing kind of thing. So that's quite, as I said, always fine grained. I already talked about the access control, so I will go beyond that. You can store a lot of information and metadata. Just to make it clear, none of this is auto-generated. You still have to do it yourself, but at least you can configure whatever you want to show and not show. We also support versioning, and this is leveraging history tables and things like that. So you can have multiple versions of the data set, and then you can look at different versions. And essentially, if you have a very large data set, you don't want to share the whole data set, you say, hey, look, I only want to share a very specific part of it, which is usually the case. If you're going with a research question, Unfortunately, now it's like, oh yeah, you're here. This is the data set. Yeah, petabytes of it. You have to take all of it. But the idea should be that if you're doing cancer research, then you need only cancer related data. You don't really need other tables or things like that. So you can clearly specify what you want, and then the data engineer can quite easily create a data subset and give you access to it. In terms of if you're a researcher, simple solutions, hopefully quite effective. We have a portal, a web app that you can use to see all the data sets available. You can look at the, so essentially you want to look at whatever data sets are available, what the data sets have, statistical information, how do you access it, and things like that. Then you can do it through a login, through your researcher login, right? And then I will go through these cohort management and concept set creation and things like that. And I think it's best explained in a demo. So I will show it to you in a second. And also the inclusion exclusion criteria, the logic, the temporal relationship, etc. And then eventually you can also perform some analysis on it, right? So this is just a lot of slides. As I mentioned, I would like to talk to you a little bit about this and show it to you in a bit of depth. So this is the tool that we have built as part of building cohorts. It used to be called Patient Analytics. Now we call it the Cohort Manager Explorer, naming under progress. But essentially, the idea is that it's an easy to use tool. As I mentioned, if you don't have, actually, even if you have SQL experience and you can code SQL very well, it might be useful not to have to code it. It might be useful to just use a simple graphical interface to build cohorts like this and then further refine it on top of it. So take care of the mundane stuff with like an easy tool, and then you want to really fine tune it or something, then you can go ahead. Support pretty much, but the good thing about this is that, and I realize that knowing the audience, it might or might not be useful, is that it actually supports any data model. So if you're one that is not OMOP CDM, then even then the cohort tool can be configured to build cohorts using the underlying data model. So, but use OMOP, it's the greatest CDM ever. Yeah, you can visualize aggregated, non-aggregated. I'll show it to you, and then you can export data for further analysis and stuff. So my favorite part of things, lots of slides, but finally a slide bit of demo time. Let me see if it still shows. So can you still see, now you see the interface, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. This should be good. When you log in, this is the landing page. I'm not going to show you the login screen. I mean, it's a login screen with a username and a password. So yeah, okay, oh, big whoop. But the landing page, so this is the data evidence landing page. Here, because this is a demo instance, we only have one data set here, but in case you have multiple data sets in your institution, then that will show up here as multiple data sets. And again, there are also filtering options built in. We have disabled all of that right now here because it doesn't make sense with one data set, but if you have multiple ones, then yeah, you can filter quite extensively to exactly find what you want. Right. If you click on, so this is a summary of the data set. You can provide whatever summary you want, and then it contains some information at a glance that you can look at how many subjects are in the data set, date of updates, the version, the data model that's underlying, et cetera, and then this little lock is actually tells the end user if they have access to it or not. So if they have access, then it's unlocked, and if it's, if they don't have, then it's logged, and then they can request for access, etc. Okay, so you click on the dataset card, and then you go into the much more detailed view, right? So here you have a much longer. Yes, sir.
What does the pie chart represent? Is it just the image, or does it represent something?
It represents the elements inside. So you have the
okay.
And yeah, is the count of the different entities inside the.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. No worries, no worries. Thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, here you have things in detail. Again, all of this is not AI generated. This is all written by somebody, but this is the SynPuff data set in case some of you know it. So this was already there. We had to copy paste it, so it was easier. Metadata also similarly built by the data owner. And then if you also want as a data owner to sort of put a little sample file to download where users can look at it and then decide and find out what columns are there, what tables are there, etc., then that's also possible, and they can download a little one here. This is a very familiar interface for you if you have ever used it. This is your DQD. Quite standard implementation. It is the Odyssey DQD, and then yeah, everything is the same. You can go into detail with whatever tests have been run, etc., and all the tests are shown here. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the detail of what a DQD is, at least not for this audience. Similarly, for the data characterization, this is an implementation of Achilles. So you have the statistical makeup of things, and you can go through different things. Let me see if I have anything else to show. No, not on this side. So yeah, DQD and data characterization, quite standard Odyssey tools, nothing new. We don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Let's talk about concepts again. I love that the audience is well versed in the idea of what a concept is, what is the whole idea behind concepts and stuff. So this is the vocab. I think it loads around 6 million. Yeah, 6 million concepts, standard, non-standard, everything else with multiple vocabularies. So all of these can be filtered. Usually, I'm assuming you will go for SNOMED or RxNorm or LOINC or something, but yeah, all of these can be filtered in case you want. Similarly, the concepts can be filtered to standard, non-standard, based on domains, etc. Yeah, classes and validity, etc., etc. Right? You can type in what you want to find. So in this case, I type in atrial fibrillation. If I've spelled it right, it should give me some results. It should take a few seconds because this is a demo system hosted somewhere. Usually if it's a local instance, it's a lot faster, but okay, this is acceptable considering I'm searching through 6 million and it returned like 800 odd concepts that match atrial fibrillation. And yeah, never ceases to amaze me how the same thing can be said in a 1500 million different ways. Yeah, never knew that before I entered this field. So, okay. Um, but yeah, the idea here is concept sets. I mean, you are aware of concept sets, reusable collection of concepts. It's a very familiar term. You can create concept sets here. So you can add concept sets similarly. So you click on add concept set, you get a loaded up. You type in a name, do the same search, and then you can add your concepts with the little plus there. Let me show you one I have already created, so it makes it easier to see what the end result will be. So yeah, I created one for diabetes. Those of you who are clinical researchers, please do not look into the selected concepts. It makes no sense. I am 100% aware it makes no sense. All questions in this topic will be summarily ignored. So yeah, I have added some random 15 different things that said diabetes mellitus, and then you can also, hierarchically speaking, add their descendants. Yeah. We also have implemented a very early version of, if you're aware of the Odyssey developments of Phoebe, this is a recommendation engine. So we also have like an early version of it, and essentially it takes a look at whatever you have selected and then says, like without being annoying like Clippy, if you remember it, says, hey, look, do you think you should add this too? Might make your cohort a little bit better. Right. So, and then you can share this if you want to be very kind and generous with all the colleagues in your organization, you share it, and then they can also see the same concept sets and they can use it and don't have to build one from zero of their own. Yeah. Highly recommended. Please share. Okay. Now I come to the, yeah, there is the really nice tool that I'd love to show. This is the cohort manager creator, as I talked about before. And then if you don't have any shared cohorts, then this is the one that I have created. So it only shows me one little filter card with whatever I have created before for the purposes of the demo. But if everybody else has been very kind with you and you're a Sherry distributee organization like Odyssey, then you have a lot of filter cards that have been shared with you, and you can reuse any of them. Yeah, so you can click on any of them and use them for yourself. Um, yeah, so this card actually contains a few details, tells you whatever the filter conditions were, what was the kind of chart they had, what was on Y and X and stuff, and it was an extension of things. You can rename this at any point, you can delete it, you should not, or you can materialize the cohort, but I'll come to it in a second. Okay. So when you click on add new cohort, and this is the cohort builder. So let's say you want to build a cohort, you come to this, and I'll quickly go over like two important areas of this screen. On the left, what you see here is the filtering screen. On the right, what you see here is the chart area. Yeah, pretty obvious, but let me lay some grounds. Yeah, both of them are linked. Every time you make a change here, it updates here. And if you use this, you can, and if you use this to make changes on this side, that can also be done. And I will show it to you in a second. If you have a lot of filters, you want a bigger screen area for just the filtering area, you can make it bigger or smaller as you wish. And then similarly speaking for the chart, if you want to look more into it, you can do it as you wish, right? The preloaded filter here is basic data. If you want to expand the basic data, I have age and gender here, which is preloaded, but you can click on this little hamburger menu and get the entire option of whatever you can filter it by, right? SynPub data quite old, so please don't be surprised by my filters, but yeah. So I can add an age filter, and as you can see, it changes here. The number here will constantly update. This number will be the same as the count here, but this 328 is the number of persons, patients, whatever records fulfill your requirement of the filter. And the total number of people in this data set is 1,179. So you can see the 328 people filter for your 1,179. As I said, everything keeps updating. Since this has already been filtered by gender, that's the x-axis. I can change that also to other things, but right now let me leave it at gender to show you that you can go from the chart to the filter also. Let's say you said, okay, I'm interested in female only. So you can click on it. As you can see, it gets selected, and then you can say, I want to add it to the filter. So you don't have to even type it out. It actually automatically adds it to the filter. And then now you have female with a patient count. Obviously it has dropped to 98, but yeah. So this is the way in which both of them can interact with each other. Let me remove at least the gender filter. Okay. I can also put two x-axes, like chart them on top of each other in case you wanted to. So I'll put in age there, for example. So this is one x-axis of gender, on top there is age. If it's a numerical value, I can bin it, not by 56, but by like 5. And then you see neat little 5 bin charts. Yep. Okay. All of these can be reset. All of these can be removed. Everything that you filtered can be reset except for clicking on this. If you click on this, it resets everything. So if you have put in 10 filter cards and then you accidentally clicked on reset, at least it asks you if you want to reset. If you still go ahead and don't read it, always read your TNCs. Same thing. If you don't read it and you click on reset, everything's gone. I'm sorry. You have to start from 0. So usually please cancel. Okay. Similarly, on the y-axis, let me drop this also so it becomes one single gender, and then show you some nice colorful stuff. So on the y-axis, I can also do similar filtration. This is also, as I said, based on age, and then you get a stratified chart here. Similarly, as this is a numerical value, I can do binning by 5, yeah, 10 or whatever it is, and then you get the same kind of thing. So essentially, both of these are quite configurable. You can do whatever you want. Okay, let's come to the main side of things. We have two tabs, slightly different from how Atlas does things. We have an inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Again, does what it says on the box. If you want to exclude something, then it goes under an exclusion filter. If you want to include something, it goes into an inclusion filter. So in this case, let's say I want to include, I know I have already built so I have added an inclusion filter of condition occurrence, and then you could, theoretically speaking, also start here and type concept names. And then what it will do is it will do a similar search and then give you some ideas here of concept names that you can select. But if you actually build a proper concept set, you really don't want to go through each one of these names here. What you do is you build a concept set. Let me see if it gives me my concept set, and I've typed in diabetes, and then it says, yeah, you have a concept set called diabetes mellitus 1. I add it, and eventually this number will change to a more manageable, whatever number it is. Yeah, okay, 34 people. Okay, all right. I could add additional filters. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use a filter. Yeah, okay. So if you actually in the middle of building a filter, try to install something else, it'll ask you if you want to save or discard. Save if you want to move to the other one. Ideally, I'm going to discard it at this point. And then just load the other one. So here I have loaded 2 inclusion while the chart is generating. I've loaded 2 inclusion criteria, and if you can see here, it's a little blue box, and I know it's a very small box. I'm not going to zoom in there, but it just says and this is the binary relationship between the 2 filters. It's an and filter. So it's this and this will do this. You can always click on it and change it to a binary relationship of or. So if you say, okay, I'm okay with the cohort having this or this, then it becomes an or relationship. Obviously, the number is higher here. But let me switch back to and then on top of it, let's say you want to do filtering based on time. So you say something started after, before, etc., etc. Similar thing, the hamburger menu, your best friend, click on advanced time. And then essentially what it does is that it puts in a time filter now. So you can also do temporal filtering between different cards. So you can say, let's say the atrial fibrillation in this case started after. So I can say it started. So I'm purposefully going to break something here just to let you know another feature of it. But I'm going to say 10 days before start of diabetes. I know for sure this is going to break, and then I'm going to see a warning pretty soon, which tells me that either, there you go. It tells me that I cannot display any patient groups based on current filter settings and configured minimum number of patients. It can mean one of two things. One is that you have filtered so bad that it has gone to 0. Or you have filtered so aggressively that it has gone to 0, or to prevent re-identification of any person included in the data set, your data administrator has specified a minimum number. So you say like, I don't want a cohort size to go below 20. If it goes below 20 or 10 or whatever, there is a risk of re-identification. We prevent that. You can set that number here, and then it will basically say, no, I can't show this to you because you will run afoul of things. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. Yeah, I'm going to remove this. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry. I'm going to delete this again. Okay. Remove the temporal filter also, so things can go back to normal here. Okay. Once you have created all your filters, you can save. I mean, my option here is not displayed because this is a saved filter, so it doesn't care. But you can save here. And then if at some point you have so many filters, you have no idea what's going on, you can click on a filter summary and it tells you what all filters you have added. So you get a neat little filter summary here, which tells you, hey, look, this is how you have filtered patients above 100 with condition A and condition B. So everything is shown here. You can download the SQL query at this point and then meddle with it. Or if you don't trust the tool, you can also look at the SQL query and go, yeah, what you have done is what I would have done, or no, I would do it slightly differently. So you can modify the SQL query here and then do it yourself. You can also export a cohort definition for import into Atlas. So you can export a cohort definition from here and then go into Atlas to further refine things. Fair bit of warning, it's not a 1:1 conversion. Slightly different ways in which things are handled in Atlas and in our tool, like time filtering and advanced time filtering and things like that sometimes get lost. So, but you do get a warning. It says, hey, look, it's not 1:1, but you can import it. You will get most of the filters there, and then the ones that are not 1:1, you can add. So it's not too bad, right? Okay. So that's the filter summary. You could also go into, and for this, I'll make the screen a little bit bigger. I have 30 patients, it's okay. And then if you are allowed to, you can go into a patient list, and this will give you the list of people who fulfill your criteria. All the data about the people who fulfill your criteria. This entire table is again configurable, so I can remove anything. So if I don't want the race concept ID, I remove the race concept ID. So then the table, yeah, regenerates itself with only that column removed and things like that. If I wanted to add something, so for example, this is only basic data and I say, hey, look, I want to look at drug exposure, then you can also do that. In this case, it'll be a 1:many, obviously, because one person takes a lot of drugs. And by drugs, I mean pharmaceuticals. And yeah, so it's a 1:many relationship. So you can look at it and explore the data that's included and things like that. So you can remove and add anything you want. All the tables are configurable. Everything is configurable. So essentially, if you see something on this tool, it probably allows you to click it and do something with it. So yeah, no clickability is wasted. So feel free to click around. So yeah, you can at this point, sorry, once you are at the patient chart, you can at this point download the patient data like the CSV files from the different tables, and this will be coming, this will be exported as a zip file, which you can unzip, and then you have separate CSV files from each of the tables exported. Also, the image can be exported, so you can download the image in a PNG file if you've created a really nice lot of filtering and you've done a very nice image and you want to use it in one of your publications or something. You can download it as a PNG file, and that would be quite doable. We are constantly developing this tool in collaboration with other partners, of course. So we are currently looking at, for example, oncology related stuff. So episodes and things like that, if they can be filtered. So as we said, please feel free to reach out. We are very happy to collaborate. We are very happy to hear back from experts. We don't consider ourselves to be the subject matter experts ever. We know that there is a lot more to learn out there. So please reach out to us. Tell us, hey, look, it would be amazing if you could do this. So we got a suggestion, for example, saying when every time you enter a filter, it reduces or increases the number of persons in the cohort. Can you hold the history of that? Because that is something we use in our paper sometimes. Now, that is not something we were aware of, but a few researchers told us, hey, look, that would be useful if you could generate a summary of saying you put filter A, then the count dropped from 2000 to 1800. And then you did this and did this. So you have a cohort history of what happened, right? And apparently that's sometimes useful in a publication. So things like this, very happy to hear. What else can I show you before I drop to take questions? I think I have some time. So yeah, if you ever had administrative rights, then you can always go to the admin portal. And I won't go through this, but this is where you can do user the role changes. So for example, as you can see here, we have like 5 roles, but all of these are configurable. You can add as many roles as you want. It will support all of those things. Yeah, you can do ETL. I already talked about concept mapping, data transformation, etc. You can also change data. You can also do a lot of work on your data sets. So run like data quality characterization, change the permissions of users. You can create a data mart, etc. Yeah, and then all of these things, everything is configurable. We have a lot of feature flags. So you can see I have switched off some like filter and search, like I mentioned, because we only have one data set, but you can change it. You can add or remove notebooks. You can configure anything you want. We also have the concept of plugins, which I didn't show here, but in case you want to have some inbuilt analysis, then you can also develop a plugin that you can then add it here, and then your researcher could use some analysis that you do very standard as inbuilt. Yeah, so I am going to stop clicking around now, and then switch a little bit back to the happy squirrel, and then take one last 1 or 2 slides more. And then essentially, as I mentioned, again, the software is open source. We have had questions saying, is it really open source? Like you don't charge anything, it's free to use. I'm like, yes, that's the concept of open source. It's free to use. Feel free to use it, please. If you want to go to our website, a really nice website, which tells you a lot of things about our organization, what we build, how you can do things, get the amazing user guide I have written. No comments on that. Also, it's an amazing user guide. The best, big words. D2E.sg, short and easy. So you can click on that. Sorry, not click on that, but like you can enter it and go to the website where you can again download, access the GitHub repo. But we are under the Odyssey GitHub repo. So you can see the link here also. It's called D2E in the Odyssey GitHub repo. You can access it from there. And those of you like, Song who like QR codes, feel free to scan this. This will also take you to our website, except that it will read data2evidence.org. So don't be scared. I'm not taking you to a scam site. I'm not stealing your identity. It is actually our site. Thank you for your time. It was really nice. So yeah, open for questions, suggestions, comments, and criticisms. Song, please go ahead.
I don't want to be the only one talking, so I'll actually let Jiwon ask first because Song always talks too much. I want others to talk. Go ahead, Jiwon.
Thank you, Song, for tossing me your chance. Anyway, thank you for your presentation. I was curious, like I was like pretty impressed that um the user like the interface was really user friendly, even though it's a nonprofit. So that was impressive. But I was curious that it is also possible to integrate the data from multiple institutions into a one data set. Is it possible here? Or because yeah.
When you say integrate data from multiple institutions into one data set, are you literally taking data from multiple institutions and then ingesting them in and combining them into one data set?
Yeah, in here. Is it possible?
Technically, you should be able to. I don't see any problems here, but Peter, is there anything that I'm missing in terms of combining? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, so if it's really basically integrating into one data set, there's no problem. It's as well the case that we support to load multiple data sets into the system. Yeah, so I think in general that's possible.
Either or.
Thank you. And one more question. So in Atlas that we use, we need to when we since I said the infographics that you guys use are really user friendly and it's really pretty, I think. So in Atlas, what we have in problem is we have to screenshot every infographics like a chart and a pie chart, anything else, we have to screenshot it. And I thought it was always hard to reuse them and like publish it. So we have to we always have to make the another table or chart and anything else. So is it possible here to export the PNG or any image directly from the platform? I think you showed me.
Yeah,
I
thought I showed you, but in case you missed it, like it's not going to take a long time to load. So I'm quite happy to show off again the fact that it's fast enough. Okay, and so if you are on the image side of things, then you can just click on this and it tells you that you can export to PNG, or you can also get a CSV with what created this chart. So all the X, Y, patient count, etc. And you can import and create a prettier chart. So yeah.
That's really cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's all. To you, Tom.
Thank you,
To you,
Jiwon.
Song.
No, to Nicole. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
another person. Yes.
I always talk too. Sorry, so thank you for that presentation. That was really great and really exciting, all the work you've done. I was really interested in the comments you made about the connection between your queries built in this platform and Atlas, and the potential discrepancy for some of the coding. If we were to want to use this kind of approach to build an analytic that could be used across different sites, would that mean that those sites would have to also have their data in this format? Or do you think that the discrepancies would only be minor if they had, their data set in an Atlas instance and imported the SQL? So I think I'm interested in your observations about the transportability of code between different translations.
Yeah, I think also, Peter. Yeah, sorry, Song, go ahead.
No, sorry. So can I just add to that, because maybe maybe a specific example would help the question and the answer easier. So I also have a similar question, right? So say there are two institutions that have installed this platform in their institutions, and now Nicole wants to send that over to me so that I can run the same thing in my instance. Okay, is there so I saw an export function to the Atlas JSON format. I also saw an export function for a SQL, but is there an export function, export/import function, where that export could be imported directly into the platform itself, the software itself? I think that that qualifies as what that is sort of the question Nicole is asking, and also the interoperability with Atlas on top of that. Yeah.
So right now, I think we don't directly offer the export, but I think that's something we could very easily add. So I think the more limiting factor is that probably right now there are much more Atlas instances than instances of our software. So therefore, we right now only offer this Atlas export, but that would be very easy to add. And regarding the compatibility with Atlas, so I think both tools have some features that others don't. So for example, we have some support for hierarchical filtering, which Atlas just doesn't support. So I think that might come into play if, for example, I think Odyssey has this episode table, and so you could have multiple procedures within an episode or something like that. And if you do such a filtering in our tool, that's not possible to export to Atlas because Atlas doesn't support that. On the other side, Atlas as well has some functionalities we do not support. But other than that, I think the differences are more minor. You just shouldn't expect that you get exactly the same patient count, because there are as well some design differences between the filter criteria, but these are quite minor. So I think you could still basically start building the cohort here, then export in Atlas, verify that this is what you want, and then participate basically in a network study.
Thank you.
Peter, follow up to that. So right now, only the export side of Atlas works, right? Not the import side, right? You can't import a Atlas cohort into your. Okay, got it.
Yeah. No, not right now. But yeah, but I mean the idea also in terms of, to be honest, in terms of the export and import that you're saying between different D2 instances, we sort of wanted to build a more network study focused kind of development. So we still, honestly speaking, didn't go into it because we wanted to find a good partner who could define properly how a network study should be done in terms of different instances hosted at different institutions and things like that. And again, as I said, we don't want to build something and then convince somebody that that's the way to do it. So that doesn't work. So yeah. So if I go by numbering, then I think Chiang is next, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Ah.
Hi, Karthik. Good presentation. I have two questions. You may have already answered it, but somehow I missed it. So first of all, is this tool? Are you building this tool to replace the Atlas, or is just or it's a supplemental tools and work with Atlas, or what is the goal of the tool? The second question is, once you have the cohort, what are you going to do with those cohort? Like, what kind of analysis are you planning, or you can already do with the cohort?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will take the charged question first. Do we plan to replace Atlas? No, we don't plan to replace Atlas. Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't make sense in order to sort of we sort of envision ours as a more of a starting point. I hope I mentioned that also, is that in most instances we think that you can use, you can have your clinical researcher or somebody like that who has an idea of how cohort should be built, what is the phenotype that should be used, etc., can define one, give you a very nice definition of a cohort here. Then you export it, import it into Atlas, and fine tune it much better. And then you also work around the compatibility stuff that Nicole is mentioning, right? In this case. So yeah, I hope that answers that. We really do not want to replace Atlas. The second part of things, and I also believe that Atlas is going through some changes right now. So I'm quite excited to see also what comes out of it, to be very honest, right? I mean, they are also making it more refined, and other things are in process. So I'm very curious to see that. In terms of analysis, so you have the ability to, once you create a cohort, you can yeah, I forgot. I realized that I didn't show you the materialization part of things, but it's okay. If you have a cohort filter, what you can do is materialize a cohort, which literally adds the patients to a cohort, sort of creates a little data set for you. And then you can use the cohort ID from this in your analysis. So if you have a notebook implementation here, then you don't have to redefine the filters again. You just give the cohort ID and say, hey, look, on this cohort ID, I want to run this analysis, like statistical or whatever analysis you can think of. If you have an external connection, then of course you can download the data that is included in the cohort, and then you can use it on your computer. I mean, I'm assuming you're allowed to download this data, and then you can use it on your computer or the high performance computing clusters and things like that. So in one of the installations we have done before, they have a linkage up with Azure machine learning and their in-house high performance computing cluster, and then that's where they run most of the analysis, because they do machine learning models on their data, which the system doesn't support. And yeah, so that's but as I said, the plugin concept is also available. So if you have some standard analysis that you have, so we have sort of played around, for example, with Kaplan-Meier at one point, and so you could technically develop such a plugin for your institution and then upload it there, and then the system will support, as part of an analysis, this plugin where you could again call these cohorts and run the analysis. I think Peter will add some.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that. So if you materialize the cohorts, so I think what happens is it stores the patient IDs in the cohort table, and that is the Odyssey cohort table. So therefore, as well, quite a few of the typical Odyssey R libraries can be used for the analysis of the data afterwards and to use these cohorts.
Okay, so you don't have any intention to build like population level analysis, like PLP or person level prediction analysis. You don't want to build those. You just want to stop at cohort level, and then once we have the cohort ID, we can like do analysis ourselves using any other tools or simply SQL or.
Yeah, Peter, you want to say something? I mean, I'm just going to say that at one point we did think about PLP and PLE. To be very honest, we spent an agonizing long time deciding which one to do first. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, in general, we basically try to integrate in the Odyssey ecosystem. So I think there's already quite a lot of analysis tooling in the Odyssey ecosystem. So therefore, we try to integrate with that. And so right now that basically happens then on the level of we materialize a cohort and then you run the R algorithms. at some point we might consider basically as well providing some more deeper integration via some user interface or something like that. But so far we didn't look into basically providing an own set of packages to run the analysis. There we didn't identify yet a huge gap, but yeah, we are open for discussions with if
I mean, we also want to spend time working on something that will be quite widely used. So if you say, look, PLP is used more than PLE or PLE is used, they are both significant pieces of work. So they're not a very small level analysis that you have 3 columns and then or 3 options and then you're done, right? It's quite significant. So if we somehow come to understand that, let's say PLP or PLE has a much higher user need, we will retool the whole thing, but then it has to fit like how we do things, right? It has to be interactive, it has to be more intuitive and things like that. So we will have to redesign the analysis, so to speak, analysis interface. So yeah, we haven't made a decision on that purely because we honestly don't know which one has more demand.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you, Xiang.
Yeah.
Yes, Kuli.
Hi, and thank you for your interesting presentation. I think you mentioned earlier that image files like DICOM are included in this platform. So I wonder how they are managed and how researchers can analyze the DICOM files in this platform. So also wondering if we are able to see this in the demonstration today a little bit.
So we do have DICOM metadata integration in another instance. Unfortunately, the demo instance does not, because I also don't have image files to store and things like that. So we haven't done that. We deal with mostly DICOM metadata, and then once you have created, then I'm talking from the instance that uses something similar. Is that you can use the filter for the DICOM metadata with what you want, and then you can pull the necessary images that you need. That's what I can think of, if I'm not wrong, on how we work with DICOM. Peter, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think it's more basically on the data ingestion and data management side. So you basically can ingest, scan the DICOM images, extract the metadata, ingest in the data model, and then I basically can filter it in our cohort builder. But we do not have basically any specific tooling for viewing DICOM images or something like that integrated at this point.
Oh, thank you. And do you also standardize the DICOM metadata because they are low data?
Yes, so I think we have actually 2 approaches. So I think there is there's this medical imaging working group from Odyssey. I think some of you might be part of it, maybe you, I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
And so we basically use some of one option is to basically really integrate into these tables, exactly like this was done in the working group. Another option for us is to I think their approach is to integrate the metadata of the DICOM images as well in the normal OMOP CDM tables. We work with some partners where that's not an option for them, because they need to very strictly separate the access from images and for the EHR data. So not all users are allowed to see the images or the EHR data, and they have actually quite a lot of data. So basically row level security would cause some performance challenges. So therefore, we have basically another option where then the actual features of the images, they are basically stored in an additional table we defined, and that as well can be filtered basically with our tool.
Thank you so much.
Can I go now? I waited so long. Can I go now?
Yes. I can see you practically jumping out of your skin. Go for it, Song.
Yeah. I actually have some back-end questions, right? So, Karthik, when you showed the DQD Achilles, the concept explorer section of the tool, they're being pulled from the backend, as in they're being pulled from a database, correct? or are they being pulled from a online environment?
No, they're pulled from a database.
Okay, great. That's fine. Okay.
Postgres in this case, right, Peter? Is it Postgres? Yeah.
Okay. Then all the analysis you're doing in the Court Explorer, is it based on SQL? I'm assuming it's SQL, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's real time, right?
Yes.
You're
This is not a recording. This is not a recording.
No, yeah, okay. So your every action you make creates a SQL query, and it will send, and it will return the results. So okay, so if this is real time, I think, have you tested the performance on a larger data set? SimPov is pretty small, right? But if you go into like huge data sets, I'm pretty sure one click you do might last a long time for people that have like millions and millions of records. So just wanted to understand the performance in larger databases.
So
So,
again, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so we work together with a partner which has basically a data set which is, I think, slightly above 10 million patients.
10 million, yeah.
And so there, I mean, obviously it has some performance impact, larger data sets. So there it's basically still a couple of seconds, but I think it always depends on a lot of different factors, how the performance is, and then obviously as well hardware. So it's definitely the case that this is more resource demanding than if you run batch jobs.
So I think the underlying basis is it's SQL based right now. And depending on how good the server is or how good the cloud instance in which the database is hosted on, as in the more money you spend, the better performance you'll get, right? From the tool here. Okay, that makes sense. Last question.
A quick note though, just a quick note though. So we do have some optimization and some workarounds, like we do caching, for example, that sort of makes it a little bit faster in cases, which is what the team came up with when we switched to Postgres. So, databases stored in Postgres led to severe performance issues. So then they came up with the idea, for example, caching the most used data and things like that to give you a better response. And the cache also like dynamically updates itself every time there is an update in the data set, et cetera, et cetera. So there are some workarounds, but yeah, I mean, generally in the sense of analysis and stuff, yeah, the hardware does matter. So
totally makes sense. Last comment or question, I would say, I know we're on time. You did this as a open source. It's for nonprofit. I'm like, this is amazing. Like all the other people have already commented on already, right? I'm just really interested from when you decided you wanted to develop this and until now, how long did this take?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I have been with the company for 5 years.
Okay.
Right.
So this software has some history.
Yes.
So it really has a longer history, and I mean as well in between. So it started a quite long time back.
Okay.
But it wasn't as well basically all the time super actively developed. So therefore, I think to give there basically a number in years, I think wouldn't really basically say that much. But it has a longer history. It's not something which is developed in a couple of months.
Yeah, I understand that, right? Because the resulting output we're seeing right now is amazing, right? And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of history, but I just wanted to get a feel, right? Is it a matter of years? Is it a matter of months? But based on what you just said, it's definitely not a matter of months. A lot of decisions made here and there, a lot of holds, tentative holds, a lot of pushes here and there. Yeah, totally get that. Okay, that makes sense. And as Jiwon says, it's a deep question. I'm sorry. All right, that's the last question I had. Really interesting. I'll also share it with my colleagues in IQVIA so that they can also have a look, because I'm less of the technical person. I'm pretty sure our technical colleagues will have a better feedback to give you guys if there is any. Okay, over to you, Mukesh.
Right, thanks. Well, I think it was a great session, right? We didn't have the prompt for questions today. The question just starts streaming in. So it shows a lot. I think we see the potential and there's a lot of interest on the ground. And definitely, I want to see more support in people installing these instances and running it on their own data sets. And give us more feedback, right? I think Karthik and Peter appreciate it to continue enhancing it further. Maybe as a concluding question, I would like to ask, we've seen all the great work now. What's your roadmap as you go forward next for this software?
That sounds like another deep question.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I expect this from my board, not from the Odyssey Scientific Conference. No. So I think one of our biggest priorities at this point, to be honest, so other than the priorities that we have as part of the projects that we take, right? I mean, we have priorities there, and that influences our roadmap to a certain extent. And I keep repeating this, right? We don't want to develop in a vacuum. So our roadmap is quite a lot of it involves extensions into, so we are trying to move more into oncology, like I mentioned. So we will do some changes based on oncology. A huge amount of it will be spent on performance improvements because we want to keep maintaining the, like, the interactive nature of things, because I think that makes a big difference. And huge, now that we are under the Odyssey umbrella, also we want to work towards more, like Peter mentioned, is to have a better synergy with the tools out there. So how best can we work with them, and how painless can we make this transition between our tool to an Odyssey tool, for example. And beyond that, I think the roadmap is quite open in the sense of feedback, and since we have open sourced, I'm assuming that a lot of people will give us a lot of feedback, and I think we will largely build our roadmap based on that. So so the project stuff, unfortunately, I can't openly share because I'm not 100% sure how much of it is stuff that I can share and not. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think we'll keen more on the software side of things, right? Essentially, how we see this software evolving as it gains more adoption. But I do see a lot of promise in how Odyssey can work with you, in enhancing this further, along with our other tools that we have in the Odyssey world as well. Yeah. Okay. All right then. I think it's a nice session. Thanks again. We'll definitely stay in touch. And I think Karthik, you asked very much about Odyssey, so please join us in future sessions, and we'll promote this software more as well. Okay.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.